Well, I came to India in January 25th, 1983. So more than 38, almost 39 years. I've been here for much of that time. I think I spent 1 year in northern Pakistan, in Gilgit, Chitral, Hunza, those places. I spent 3 years in Nepal, 4 years in Nepal, about 20 years in India, and 8 years in Tibet. It's very, so most of my adult life I've been here. I had $700. I didn't have any degree, I didn't have anything. I was quite an adventure, I came with nothing and I kind of made something, I guess, through the blessings of good people. There are many connections. Let's first talk about Ladakh in Western Tibet. Western Tibet, let's call it Nadi. Is everyone there Nadi? Or right, Nadi? Nadi and Upper Ladakh. Right, they share, well look, the Changtang, the Changtang is the Changtang, right? Isn't there, what is that, Chumitang? Aren't there wild yak drone? And sometimes they come over the border, right? The drone come over the border. Well, the people came over the border too. If you look at the rock art in Anle and other places in Upper Ladakh, they're very close to Western Tibet. Not very different than Shum. The rock art in Anle and places like that is much closer to Ngari Korsum than it is to Shum and Purik. They're obviously more closely related to the people of Upper Tibet. And we see that particularly in their symbols. And the symbols give you an idea of religion. There's a very important triad of symbols. In the middle usually is the Yungdrung. And in ancient times, it didn't matter which way it went. That's sectarian. That comes in after the 8th century when you have sectarian differences. So you have your Yungdrung. On one side you have your Dawa. And on the other side you have the Nima. With the Ozer, Nima Oze. What do you say? You have that, right? And so this is a very powerful symbol. We find it in Ladakh, Upper Ladakh. We find it in Western, all over Upper Tibet, all the way to Namso, which is just northwest of Lhasa. From Namso all the way to Anli, all the way to Spiti, we find the same kind of symbolic structures, markings, emblems. So this is one example indicative of the close cultural ties, religious ties, between Upper Ladakh particularly and Western Tibet, Upper Tibet. And then also, what's the main hunting you find in Shaman Purik? It's the Daju, right? The pong, with the ibex, right? And it's not just killing ibex for food. The ibex is obviously sacred. Sometimes you have the archer this way, and the ibex is facing the other way with big horns. It's as if the ibex and him are somehow related, not through killing, but through something else. We know in early times the relationship with animals was very sacred and very close. We still see in traditional customs. But in Upper Ladakh, we find drone hunting, right? We find a little down here, but not much, from my understanding, from the people that are surveying. Most of the drone hunting is found in Upper Ladakh. So we see similar economic system, right? Drone hunting. If you see the Tashu, Tapa, or if you Gya in the old Tibetan, the Gya, Ra Gyata, Gyata Gya. This is a horseman. And we find many horsemen up there. And De, Ngari, Nakchu, Naksang, we find so many horsemen, often with the bow and arrow. And we find here also, in various places, the bow and arrow, the man face, the horse is this way, he's turning around and shooting back, right? Not easy. They call it the Parthian shot. We find that all over Central Asia. So if we look at Spiti, Spiti shares relationship with, the rock art clearly shows, with Ladakh and with Western Tibet. But it's closer to Western Tibet in ancient times, according to the rock art. But that's no surprise. Look at the Spiti language. If you grow up in Spiti, you go over to Guge, you speak quite easily. They'll laugh a few of your words, and because they're different, but you can communicate, right? So Spiti has things from Ladakh, Jangkar, and Western Tibet, but it seems it's closer to Western Tibet. If we look at Lahul, they're just discovering rock art sites in Lahul. A friend of mine Rajesh Thakur. He belonged to the family, I think the king, Ladakh's king's wife is from, or mother rather. The mother is from that family. And he's been discovering and sharing with me a lot of rock art. And the rock art of Lahul shows similarities with Ladakh, Zhang, and also with Spiti in western Tibet. So we see all over the western Tibetan plateau, all the way from Kargil, all the way to Lhasa, the high regions. There are many interconnections, religious, cultural, historical. We look at the clan names. Look at all these clan names. We just looked at, oh, well, I didn't show you the clan names. We were looking at something else. We'd have to have another talk for that. But Chokro, Kyungpo, Dro, or Bro, however you want to pronounce it. These clans are clearly mentioned in Tibetan scriptures, in Tibetan texts. They were important clans. So the same ministers, the same noble families of Western Tibet were present in Ladakh. So there's genealogical connections. So and these connections are not new. They go way, way back in time. If we look at what's the main anthropomorphic figure in Sham and Purik? It's a bitriangular man. It's a man who's one triangle like this, one triangle like that, right? Your main figure, the main type is this kind of figure. You have your head, and he has a body like this, right? Right? This you find also in Rutok. Very interesting, Rutok, which is just over the border. Some of you remember your grandparents, they went to these places, right? Before 62. Rutok has a lot of rock art very similar to Ladakh, right? So it's the same analogy, milk and water. Where's the line? You can make a political line. You can have two armies facing each other. But you know what? Culture doesn't respect those kind of lines in the long run. Culture runs. Culture is permeable. It's like a cloud. It moves. Ideas are the most fungible thing we have beyond a consciousness itself are ideas, right? Ideas move. And so people were in contact, they were moving, these close contact with the West. But we see it in Rutok with the maskoid, the so-called the faces. We see it with drone hunting. We see it with these bitriangular figures. We have many connections with, but it connects, Ladakh also has many links with the north, Mongolia, Kazakhstan, southern Siberia. We find many links in the rock art there. For instance, the battle axe, what do you call tari? In Tibetan, sa-ta-ta-ta, ra-ding-bu-ri, tare. We don't find tare in Western Tibet. But we find in Ladakh, we find in Mongolia, we find in Kazakhstan, we find in Siberia, we find many places in Central Asia. Clearly this is a patrimony, a link with the North and the West. What else? There are many, we find all kinds of, chariot. There's one chariot, Shingchi. Shingchi? Shingchi, the chariot, two-wheeled vehicle with horses. There's one in Trisul rock art. I hope it's still there. I think it is. It's the only one in Ladakh. We have many in Nari Korsum. We have them in Mongolia. We have them in Kyrgyzstan. We have them in Central Asia. We have them in Western China. We have them in Amdo also, in other parts of the plateau. So clearly in the Bronze Age, the chariot, like, I don't know what's now, think of an F-35 is a super plane, right? American super plane. At that time they didn't have an F-35, they had chariots. The chariot was an important symbol, a military symbol, royal symbol, probably also a deep cultural symbol. Everyone shared, the Ladakhis had it, the Western Tibetans had it, the Amdoas had it, the Mongolians had it, the Western Chinese, they weren't Han at that time, they were from other groups, Mongolian and other kind of Turco-Mongolian, Tokharian, Iranian groups in Western China. But they had it, right? Kyrgyzstan had it. They all had it around 1500 BC. Everyone got the chariot, right? Just like here, 30 years ago in the 80s, everyone got a solar system, right? Americans got solar hot waters. You know, Ladakh has solar hot water heaters. Even the ideas move the most. They're the most permeable, the most travel the most easily. But also technologies travel. People want things, right? Everyone wants a nice car nowadays. Well, not everyone, but many people. People want a nice house. They want heat. They want air conditioning. What have you. It was the same 2,000 to 3,000 years ago. They want the best technology, the best bronze technology, best iron technology. And so that was shared widely. But even further back, in the Neolithic, though I haven't seen any rock art in Ladakh that's from the Stone Age. There may be, but I haven't seen any. No one has shown me anything that's convincing. But we know the tools. They have a knife that looks like a crescent, like a dawa, right? And it's preferred as a hole. They use it for cutting. We find that in northwestern China. We find it in Burma. We find it on this side, in Kashmir, on this side, all the way to Kashmir. So even in the Stone Age, people were moving, trading, talking, relating in various ways. Killing, and sometimes killing each other. Killing is also a good way to, it's a terrible way, but it's an efficient way of sharing knowledge. A terrible way of sharing knowledge, but it's another way. We like to think that many of the exchanges were peaceful, religious exchanges, ambassadorial, emissaries and ambassadors, and people sharing. But in some cases it was war. Ladakh has, and Western Tibet has very similar fighting. There's people fighting with hands like this. There's people fighting with bow and arrow each other. People rock. There was fighting or martial contests. Fortunate, unfortunate, that's part of human existence. And war is a very important way of moving ideas.